大家好，这里是机晃为您带来的 CD Projekt 创始人 Marcin 的专访，我是麦教授。我们现在就开始我们的专访。Hi Marcin, it's been a year since our interview, and is there anything new change happened to CD Projekt, and are there any new Chinese staffs now?
Yeah, first and foremost, I've changed the hairstyle.
Yeah.
It's a bit longer.
Yeah.
I've aged a little bit, showing showing signs of stress. But no, seriously, I think it's been an incredible year for us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so we got Witcher 3 through the door.
Yeah.
Got a lot of awards, over 800 awards, and then 2 expansions. So that was a really huge undertaking for the studios. I think gamers already take it sort of for granted,
Yeah.
They played it, they probably just finished or are finishing Blood and Wine, and they want always the new stuff. And actually, thanks to their push and very vocal reaction, they really give us a kick to develop the standalone Gwent.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the Chinese market is concerned and Chinese gamers, we've actually, not even 2 weeks ago, we've announced that we are bringing Gwent Kuntepai to China in cooperation with Gaia, so I'm really happy about it.
And so I think you have definitely made some progress with your Mandarin, right? So could you say some greetings to Chinese players in Mandarin?
Yeah, and that's the embarrassing moment. 大家好，我是 Marcin， 我学中文可是有一点困难。给我麻烦，可是有希望有一天我可以是电话用中文，就是现在我比较喜欢用英文，所以请我们现在开始用英文。
谢谢。So the key characters in the Heart of Stones are a pair of brothers, and the key characters in the Blood and Wine are a pair of sisters. So is that intentional or purely coincidental?
Scratching his head.
Yeah.
Actually, so I think it's more like it's coincidental. It definitely wasn't planned by any of us.
Yeah.
But the stories in The Witcher are very personal, so maybe there is something we don't know.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely talk back to the writers and ask them.
Yeah.
And maybe there is a connection. So
maybe.
If there is a connection, we'll let you know.
Yeah. Okay. And so the next question will be. In Blood and Wine, some PC gamers they use the console code and they reach the top of the snowy mountains and they find out the group photo of CD Projekt, and so we can feel the importance and significance of this final DLC for The Witcher, and now it's like the end of the Blood and Wine means. The curtain of the legend of Geralt has officially fallen, at least for now. And could you share us your personal feelings feelings of the end of this journey after so many years?
I think the first and most important thing which I would like to say is that I like journeys which end. And I think we all like it at the studio.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were asking us, so will you continue? Maybe one more DLC, maybe.
Yeah.
And it is always very tempting, but I think we're brave enough here to say, hey, that's the end, and that's when the story is ending, and that's it. That's the end of the story. That's the end of the trilogy. It has been 12 or almost 14 years.
Yeah.
So I think it's time to put it to bed.
Yeah.
And I think we're finishing it on a very high note. So if you look at how we develop as a studio and how our storytelling capabilities have developed from Witcher 1 to Witcher 2 to Witcher 3, I think these are totally different qualities, totally different worlds. But every time you are asked about it, so how is it how you make such great games? I say like Rome, or actually I say Novigrad wasn't built in a day, and if there wouldn't be Witcher 1 and Witcher 2, they definitely wouldn't be Witcher 3. So it is constant evolution, constant improvement, and of course, Witcher 3 is a brave bet. And then you're actually asking about the expansions and that we are finishing with the photo and so it's the first time we actually develop expansions, because before we had the enhanced editions, we never had expansions before. we are especially proud of them because they are one of the highest reviewed expansions ever made. And Blood and Wine is, as far as I remember, 92% on Metacritic, so it's amazing. And I think we led the team to go a bit wider and to make it a festival for them as well a little bit. So there is a lot of puns, there are a little different small flavors, because this way they are saying goodbye to the series, and quite a few of them it means 12 years of their life. So that's a lot. Like if you walk around the graveyard, you can see their names on the tomb. So on the tombstones. I think that's really cool, and for us it's just putting the dot on the end of the sentence, and that's it. And right now it's time for Gwent, and right now it's time for Cyberpunk.
Okay. Have you got any most impressive experience when you are developing these two DLCs, or some impressive, memorable choices? Because you like to make players do the choice in the game. So
I think first of all, we don't call them DLCs because DLCs it's something what we give for free, and DLCs were the 16 small pieces which we gave for free to gamers.
So expansions.
After the release. Yeah, that's the proper one. Thank you.
Expansions.
Education is an important part of what we do. So expansions, these are.
All right.
I think. So first of all, you plan it all, at least initially, when you design the game. So you still don't have the game finished, and you already have to see, hey, we would like to tell this and that story. You don't start working, but you want to make sure that the story fits The Witcher, and you think already, which direction it will go. But actually, with the Hearts of Stone, we had one story, and just before starting to work on it, Adam Badowski came over, and he said, no, I have a totally different concept. So it's a different Hearts of Stone, but I think it's much better and bolder. And I think what you can see in both expansions, that they are very different in the playstyle. And actually, while working on the first expansion, so first of all, we didn't have an experience of making expansions and delivering them to gamers, and there is always a fear. So like Witcher 3, 100, 150, some people even 200 hours, and then you give them an expansion which is like maybe 10, 11, 12, and you think like, hey, maybe they'll be disappointed, maybe they'll complain. It hasn't had such like a scope, like a variety. The story is much smaller, more, I don't want to use the word narrow, but it's not that complex for sure. But actually, a lot of people gave us feedback that because it was packaged in these 10 hours, they had way more fun in terms of it was very compressed and condensed, so they were able to go through it in a matter of, for example, like non-core games for like 2 days or 3 days, and then they sort of digested the story much better. I think it's more intense, it adds a lot of punch. It is also very, very Slavic because the whole wedding theme, it's actually based on one of the classical Polish novels, The Wedding. So I think it has a special meaning for Polish people, and all this sort of like wedding games or village wedding games. I really like them, like chasing the pig or like diving for the lost shoe of your beloved one. I think this was really cool and full of flavor and full of richness. While if you look at Blood and Wine. And of course, I mean, the very dynamic story of the Olgierd with a very harsh ending, so to speak. And again, it was based on there were bits and pieces from a famous Polish fairy tale. So again, we are using the classics. While Blood and Wine, it was more epic, it was huge. I mean, the size of the world was practically almost like Velen. And then it had very different accents. But some people preferred one, some people preferred the other. And while making them, I think, so Hearthstone, it was my, Hearts of Stone was, Hearthstone. It's good. We're messing up the name quite a few times. Hearts of Stone was more like, hey, how to make an expansion cool, how to not disappoint gamers, and then the moment of waiting, and then the reviews are coming and the feedback from gamers is great, they love it, they don't think the story is too short. While Blood and Wine, it was more, hey, we already know how to make expansion, so right now we go full Monty, we actually gave the developers more time, and they went and ran wild with it. There was quite a big part of the original team working on it. At some moments, almost all. So it's like a full-fledged, huge part of The Witcher with 30 up to 40 hours. And then I think also when you play it, you have a very different experience in terms of the scale, in terms of the architecture. We've actually redone the UI. We've redone a lot of elements with actually big part of the game is noticed, but some don't. It just kind of plays a little bit more smooth, and I think it's great. So while making this expansion, I think what is most important, we were never slaves to something like, hey, we have to fit in this and that budget. We really wanted to make the highest quality expansions and make it a testament to the value we offered in The Witcher 3, and then we were sure that people will appreciate it and they'll go and buy it, and they actually did. So commercially, it's also very successful, and especially on Blood and Wine, we expanded the scale significantly comparing to what we thought initially, especially at the end of designing The Witcher 3.
And so, when did you come up with this idea to offer expansions to the games in the first place? Initiative.
We really wanted to make it fairly early on. But I mean, okay, so for Witcher 1 and 2 we didn't have it. No. And we thought that, and there was a reason for this at the very beginning. So Witcher 1 was the first game. We were not brave enough to plan expansions because we didn't know how to make the game. So it was like, hey, let's finish the game. And then we actually did an enhanced edition, which had a couple of hours of additional gameplay. But after Witcher 1, we thought, hey, it's really time for Witcher 2. We developed our own technology, the Red Engine. And then here we had another challenge because Witcher 2, we wanted to put it on consoles. So once we finished Witcher 2 on PC, and both tech-wise and resource-wise, we were only able to make it for one platform at a time. We said, okay, right now, all hands are on board, and we spent a year building from the ground up the Xbox 360 version. So again, it was an enhanced edition, the Xbox 360 versions, and all the PC gamers who bought the original Witcher 2 on PC got the enhanced elements. So again, additional, I think there were like 4 hours of gameplay, some CGIs, cutscenes, a lot of additional improvements. They got it for free, but here it was like, hey, so we spent 3.5 years on The Witcher 2, then 1 year on Xbox 360, and then, hey, expansions now, come on, it doesn't really make sense. We moved on to Witcher 3. So Witcher 3 was reaching for the sky, but at that time, I actually said, like, guys, this time we have to expand the gameplay experience. We have to offer people some additional stories. They're waiting for it. Other RPGs are doing this successfully, and we think we can do it even better. Yes, and so I think it's especially important for a game where you spend a lot of hours because you grow attached to it. You got accustomed to the characters. So a reasonable number of high quality expansion, I think, perfectly makes sense both from the player perspective, but also it's a good business expansion. Allows the game to live longer on the shelves, on the stores. There's more people going to buy it. Then there will be like a Game of the Year edition and so on and on. But at the same time, we from the very beginning we limited to 2. So we decided we do 2 and nothing more. So pretty much that's the whole logic. There's no cunning plan behind it, if you ask me.
Okay.
And actually, I mean, right now, if you look at it from today's perspective, gamers are asking, so when can we get the next one? And it's like, no, guys. There is time to end things. It's like, I don't know, with good movies or good TV series, it should end at a certain point, and that's why it's good, Yeah. If something goes on and on, at a certain time, at a certain moment, you get bored.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
Okay, thank you. And the following questions will be about Cyberpunk 2077.
So there will be a very sort of like a short discussion, right?
Yeah, very short one.
Fire away.
So, is there any details you can tell the players now?
Yes, there are new details, and the new details are you have to wait patiently, replay Witcher 3, the 2 expansion, enroll for the beta version of Gwent, then play quite some of it, and when we'll be ready, we'll start talking about it, and we'll show the game, because right now it's not about us talking but showing the game, and that's pretty much all we have to say about Cyberpunk for now.
Okay, Now some indirect questions. There was probably a period of time that you, in CD Projekt, you developed the expansions for which Cyberpunk 2077 and Gwent at the same time simultaneously. And so, have you got like this experience of developing multiple games in the same time before? And also, what is the proportion of the developer of the 3 games?
It's different in time, and I think Gwent it started development a little bit before we finished The Witcher 3, and that's actually a separate team. It's in all fairness, it's a different kind of game. It's not a gigantic RPG. It's still a very demanding game. The team is fairly big. We have right now 60 people in total working with Gwent, but Witcher 3 was 250. And if you look at Cyberpunk, in all honesty, I think a lot of pre-production was done. But the biggest part of the team was on The Witcher 3, and then following that, we are actually moving more and more people. But I think it's even less about the number of people in the project, but it's more on the focus. And I think a lot of development studios can tell you that. If your goal is really making something extremely good, and you aim really, really high with the innovation, with the quality, and the bar is up high, at a certain point, one project takes all your energy away. And we are not a mass production factory. We are not chasing anyone. Nobody's forcing us to release a game per year. And until we are happy with what we have prepared and what we have produced, we'll not show it, we'll not talk about it. So that's why it takes so long, it's as simple as that.
Okay, thank you. And in last year, you have mentioned that you will consider adding Mandarin vocals and simplified Chinese versions for the Cyberpunk. And so, any new progression?
I think it's definitely on our agenda. We would love to do that, and of course in China, the toughest part is going through the governmental approvals, and so I think we have to have a ready big part of the game, and then we have to start discussions. I think we would love to do that. Whether it will be possible or not, we'll see that. But the motivation is there. What I can confirm is that Gwent will be fully in Chinese. It will have voiceovers. It will have a strong single-player element. And this will be the first time we'll have a proper Mandarin simplified Chinese version with VOs. So and I hope Cyberpunk will be the next one down the line.
And yes, definitely. And how do you know that? I'm going to ask some questions of Gwent next. Yes. So.
We don't have that many projects, so I was kind of guessing,
Oh, you're right. You're right. When did you come up with the idea of developing an independent game for Gwent?
Actually, it was not so long before releasing The Witcher 3, and initially the whole concept of Gwent was like additional entertainment in taverns, so that's how it started. We wanted a mini game. 2 guys within the studio, Damien Monnier and Rafael Yaki. And Damien is a designer and Rafael is on our BD team, and he's the biggest nerd out there we have. So this is the go-to guy if we have any questions about comic books, about the lore, about anything like that. But he's a huge fan of TCGs. And they came over to Adam Badowski, and Adam said that Adam is the head of the studio, that we really need this additional mini game for the taverns to add the flair, to make it cooler. And we had a concept of a drinking game, but it wasn't so cool because it was all the same, and then either you were falling under the table or your opponent was. So I think we abandoned this idea. But he said we have only a weekend for that. So actually, within the weekend, they came up with the basic concept of Gwent. Came up with like a paper prototype, or a very simple prototype, and Adam liked it. And then they started, and imagine that at the same time we are finishing The Witcher, getting towards the end of development. So it's not like a very relaxed time, like, hey, I have this great concept, let's develop it for 2 weeks. No, it's rushing, it's hardcore timing, working day and night. And they actually lined up people who like this idea, and they built the card game into the game. And then actually it developed into the thing where you have a lot of quests around it, and it lives its own life. It adds a whole new level of exploration to The Witcher 3. So actually we did that, and then the later we are going, the further we are going with the development, we saw that already within the studio there's more and more people playtesting more Gwent than they're actually playtesting The Witcher itself. Yeah. So we released the game and said, okay, there is something to it, but it's just us. Maybe we're wrong. We released it, and fans were automatically bombing us with emails. We got a couple thousand emails, posts, so we even were getting phone calls. If we would have had a fax, I'm sure there would be faxes arriving as well. And there were 40 fan-made versions of the game, so they're actually taken out the cards from the game, they coded some code, they ran small servers. Some of them had thousands CCUs just before they died. We actually kindly asked them to take the servers down, because we said, hey, actually we're really working and thinking for quite a few days how to tell them to take it down, and at the same time not to tell them that we are working on Gwent, because we didn't want to spoil the fun. But we already decided, okay, this is the thing, gamers want it. It is definitely clicking, and the gameplay mechanics, it's so unique that people don't consider it just another TCG. They really want to have it as a standalone. And that's very much the inception of Gwent. So it came first as a small game that within the studio gathered a lot of love, developed into something bigger within the Gwent itself, within the Witcher itself, and then was requested by fans. So I think a great sort of prototype and prototyping phase, and proof of concept that it stands on its own legs. And right now we are making it a AAA standalone and big.
Okay. So undoubtedly CD Projekt have so many, so rich experience with developing the RPG game. And so maybe it is probably the first time to develop an independent TCG, as you mentioned. And so have you also hired, employed some new staffs who has experience of such type of games before, or you just with your original team and try to explore just like the first Witcher game?
Actually, it's a mix of both. So first of all, the fuel of ours is always passion. Yeah. And then you could say that we've designed the original Gwent in The Witcher 3, and that was purely passion. People without experience in TCGs, experience in designing games, but not card games. But then, because Gwent will have a lot of focus on the PvP, we actually took people from experienced teams. They came on board also with multiplayer experience, with server experience, because that's sort of the new sphere. Actually, the whole server structure, it's being powered by our own GOG, the digital distribution platform. So we are putting, we already have a lot of pieces of the puzzle within the company, but we actually took people from other studios working on TCGs and knowing, how to balance, how the monetization works. There will be a lot of balancing, a lot of experimenting. That's what the closed beta phase is for. But I think we fairly solidly stand on the ground, and already what we have looks and plays great.
Okay. And so how could Gwent guarantee its uniqueness, its competitiveness among other similar games, you think?
What are the similar games?
Yeah, like Hearthstone.
Is it that similar? There are cards in it.
Yeah, there are cards.
But I think the mechanics is different. So.
Mechanics are different.
And I think if it would be similar, because obviously, as we all see, there's a lot of clones of Hearthstone out there.
Yeah.
And this was our main question: is Gwent unique enough to stand on its own? And I think the initial reaction is the best proof of that, because if it wouldn't be, people just wouldn't bother to write to us and ask us to make a standalone version. And I think they really wouldn't bother to make like 40 versions of their own. So this is one thing. The gameplay mechanics is different, as you have seen, as you have played in the game. And additionally, we are going into different direction, because Gwent is very much tied to a very deep and multi-layered lore of of the Witcher world. So originally based on the books by Andrzej Sapkowski, 7 right now, 8 books already. Some of them already published in China. So I would but I think he's called not Wushi, but it's called Liemo.
Yes, exactly.
So definitely check it out. And if you play The Witcher, so you know the depth of the story, and we want to bring this storytelling to card games. So you don't play just the funny guy on a card, or like, I don't know, a cruel villain or a monster. This monster has a background story, there's certain motivation, and we believe that this is very meaningful for players because they want to spend time with things they know, they understand, and they'll be able to find out a lot about it. So this is for the guys who already know a little bit about The Witcher. But for the newcomers to the franchise, and it was like, hey, here's a new TCG, let me check it out. We'll have a really cool tutorial telling them both about the gameplay mechanics and taking them, like in a hand-holding manner and walking them through the mechanics of the game, but also immersing them through the story. And then on top of that, we'll have the single-player expansions, where we'll be telling stories of like the untold Witcher stories, so to speak, not necessarily focusing on the main characters, so like, I don't know, Geralt, Yennefer, or Triss, but maybe some side character, maybe some monster. And like adding the richness to all of that, and I think adding the meaning to each of the cards you have and you play. So then the card is just not, a soldier, but the soldier has a background, has a story to it. I think our storytelling experience, we really would like it to shine in Gwent. And outside of the fact that, Gwent is designed for PC and consoles, so we are focusing, on the big screen experience, beautifully looking cards, great animations, great visual and sound effects. But then these are not just cards; these are stories. So you play the stories.
So you're talking about these sound effects, special visual effects, and so will you support VR?
We don't have any plans for that as for now.
Not yet.
No.
Okay. Okay. And so
we'll support Gwent. First, we have to support Gwent.
All right. Okay. Cool. So Hearthstone is more or less quite popular in Chinese market, and the mobile phone games are very popular in Chinese market as well. So what kind of expectations have you got for the Chinese market about Gwent?
I think it's always a tough question because whenever we approach new markets and Chinese market, although we have a lot of Witcher fans, we are fairly new here. We have to have modest expectations. We have to be reasonable because first and foremost, we like to introduce it to gamers and tell them, hey, tell us what you like, what you don't. That's the closed beta period for that. And if we see that it clicks, we'll definitely scale up. So we're focusing on the initial beta period. Our plan is to roll out the closed beta as soon after the Western beta as possible. Of course, again, we have to follow the local regulations, go to the governmental approval. It will take us a bit of time, but we are pushing towards making this as soon as possible. And also another thing will be not restricting China as a separate territory. So for us as gamers, it's important that everybody can play together. So there will be global servers, people will be playing together, and as soon as we'll be able to introduce it here in China, they'll just join the global community.
Wow, thank you. And so many game companies would prepare exclusive in-game content for different regions in the world. So, has Gwent prepared such kind of special content for Chinese players?
No. We don't have a plan like that just yet. I think I would less like to think of some
separated,
some separations. I would mostly like to focus on people playing together. And we already announced that we'll support cross-platform play across all the platforms that will agree to that. So PC obviously, then Microsoft is on board as well. We are still waiting for an okay from Sony. This would be great.
Yeah.
So this is the way we want to go. What future will bring, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe there will be some clever ideas for China. We'll come up with something cool. It will be good for the Chinese gamers, but at the same time, we'll not separate them. Because we would like people to play together, to compete together. That's important, and we don't want to lock them out into regions. Maybe some special cards. I don't know.
Or card backs, customization.
Yeah, the vanity is fairly easy. And we would definitely love to do that. But I'm just talking about more the gameplay mechanics and gameplay elements. I wouldn't like to make any changes here.
I see. And so players are now discussing what is the commercial mode for Gwent. Because like the Hearthstone, basically the games are free, but you can choose to purchase the card bags or some customizations. It's Gwent will be like, I just need to pay once for the game?
No. I mean, we've actually announced it. The game will be free to play. So similar model to Hearthstone. You'll be able to buy card backs.
Yes.
Cabal,
yeah.
as far as I remember.
Yeah.
And there will be vanity items as well. Having said that, of course, you'll be able to play the game without spending any money, and you'll also be able to get new card packs and whatnot. It's a free-to-play, so yes, the business model is to ask gamers if they have fun to buy stuff, but never to force them. And this is generally our motto as a studio.
Yeah, definitely. And okay, and the following question will be about GOG.
Yeah.
And so you are bringing GOG to China, right?
Yeah, I mean there will be powering Gwent. So yes. So yeah, I mean just the backend for now. So the service traction, but who knows? Do you think Chinese gamers would be interested in that? Would like that?
It will be relevant with the next question. It all depends on whether GOG will support the local Chinese payment method like Alipay and UnionPay. Have you considered that? Because Steam has done that.
If GOG would come to China, I think it would be stupid not to support these methods.
Definitely. Yeah. So, and next question will be a hard one because as what I
okay, I gotta go.
Sorry. As what I understand, online digital distribution platforms of video games such as Steam and GOG is kind of located in the gray areas of the existing Chinese policies and laws. And have you done thorough research about relevant policy and laws in China? And is there any risk to start and expand the business of GOG in China? And have you made contacts with the relevant department of Chinese government and local Chinese law firms?
I really like this question. My answer will be very short. If we would be considering for GOG to come to China, we would definitely do that.
Okay. Wow, that's a very brief answer. And okay, there are some non-relevant, unimportant questions next. And as we know, Telltale Games are releasing new games for Batman very soon. And from what I know, at least you personally have very good frequent contact with the TTG, and will you consider allow TTG to develop, interactive film for Witcher in the future?
This is not the first time I hear this question, but maybe.
Maybe.
We've been meeting many times, discussing. Actually, we have all the games of Telltale on GOG. We just released the Batman it's available on pre-order. So it's a good cooperation. They're very good guys. Yeah. I think they already have a lot of IPs they're working on. So they will be free one day, maybe. Why not? I'm personally a huge fan of their games. I play quite a few of them. I'm definitely looking forward to the new Walking Dead. I think that's the one I'm most excited about. I'll definitely also check out Batman. I'm curious about it.
Okay. And so there are also a lot of world famous game studios in Poland, like your company, like People Can Fly, Techland, City Interactive, etc. And so with only the population of 38 million, right? And so Are there some secrets in Polish game industry?
Yeah, we drink a lot of potato vodka, and it helps. No, I don't know. I'm asked about it very often, and even we had. I think it was Polygon, the side from the US, and they came over to Poland, and they were shooting a reportage about the Polish gaming industry, and also so what is the recipe for success? And I think we are so hungry for such a long time. The country didn't really have access to the West, and then we open up, and then it accelerated really fast. We entered the European Union, and suddenly there are all these possibilities, and we have so many things to catch up with. So I think my natural answer is that there's a lot of people who love games, who are very hardcore. There's a lot of good programmers. Yeah. I think the design scene started growing, and then people thought, why not? I mean, we love games. We love to do games development. Let's give it a go, and we had a lot of success. But it didn't happen overnight. Like if you look, for example, like 11-Beat Studios with This War of Mine. Yeah. These guys were one of the first studios that were called Metropolis. It was ages ago. So they had games like Gorky 17, and the first game was Teen Agent, like an adventure game, which actually we, in our first company, were distributing. So these are not the success stories are not built overnight. It's like hard work, and they were learning over time. You didn't hear about them back then because the games were maybe not that good. Maybe they didn't manage to make a breakthrough outside of really Eastern Europe, maybe Germany. But then, with the access to digital distribution, with their skills sort of maturing, you suddenly saw quite a few of them, and you noticed them. Like if you look at Techland, the Dying and the Dying Light.
Yes.
Pavel, I mean, he started the company pretty much around the time with it, so it's 20-something years. And he was making smaller games like racing games, football games, and then then it was here's like a Western game published by Ubisoft, and then came the Dying was like a breakthrough, and so it's a lot of experience gathered, but we also see newer kids on the block. And funnily enough, you're asking because on one of the Polish sites, like 2 years ago, there was an article called "The Alphabet of Polish Game Dev." So each day there was a letter. I'm of course starting with A, and then they were listing the names of the studios, and I was like, what? And there were like a couple hundred of them. And the studio meant maybe 2 guys doing a Facebook game, but still they did a very thorough research. And I was overwhelmed with the number of companies doing games in Poland. So I think we just must love games, and we also have a lot of talented people. And then they really, with opening up to Europe, opening up to the world, we saw that there is a huge opportunity. And gaming as a media, it's much easier to be exported in comparison to books or movies. It's way more universal. Yeah. And I think this is also empowering people. And also, if you think about access to the market with the digital distribution, hey, you're a small developer, you just license Unity. It's not that expensive. You start coding, you have a dream, and then you put it up on App Store, and here you go. Yeah, like back in the day when we started, like on Witcher 1, without a physical distribution, a deal, a green light committee, assigning a 60 pages agreement, which we negotiated for 6 months, doing PR marketing, like ooh.
Step by step.
I mean, but the way to the market was super tough, so it was automatically eliminating a lot of clever ideas because the gatekeepers were the committees, the publishers' committees. So there were like 5, gray-haired guys who are like, we don't think this game is good enough. And if you look at the stories of developers, like Guitar Hero, that was probably the most rejected game in the world. It was like, Guitar, come on, makes no sense, yeah? And then it's $1 billion industry, yeah? Of course, it faded away, but there's a lot of, like, I think another one is Operation Flashpoint from Bohemia Interactive, which was then picked up by Codemasters and became an instant hit. And then Arma followed up after that. And then people say like, no, it's too hardcore. It's too war simulator-ish kind of thing. So right now, the access to the market has no limits. And I think this is really empowering people back in Poland. So sorry, it was a super lengthy answer. But the conclusion is, I think, I really don't know.
A good one, a good one. And so, have you got any suggestion for your Chinese counterpart, since Poland and China share so many similar backgrounds?
I think we already when we go to trade shows, we see more games from China, but definitely not enough. Mm-hmm. And I think vast majority of games, it's very much based on Chinese themes.
Yes.
Which are either not properly presented or very hard to understand and digest for Western gamers. So I'll definitely encourage them to start and think how to come out and how to sell what they have to Western gamers, because the accessibility, it's close to none. I mean, actually I'm coming here more and more often and I still realize I know nothing, and I learn Chinese and I'm very interested in the culture. So actually I understand way more than an average European or American does. But still the barrier is huge. So I think we really need a more clever concept of how to get the game in an understandable shape and form in front of the gamer. Because what I also learned here and what I realize is that gamers all around the world are very similar. They like good stories, they like good gameplay.
Yes.
And if it's presented to them in an understandable way, properly localized and in an understandable cultural context, because maybe, I don't know, traditional Chinese folk tales, maybe they are not known, but maybe certain elements of them can be dressed up in a little bit different manner, maybe a different graphical style. I'm not trying to throw here any ideas about game design, but you know, sorry guys, if a Polish company can make it out to the world, I think Chinese companies can make it way better and easier. You have way more power and a lot of skills here, so you know, fingers crossed. Yeah.
Okay.
So there will be more people trying at the same time, you know? Just pure probability calculation. It's like, hey, 38 million versus what?
And now we've got the picture we got from Eurogamers and this picture of you. So you're on the left. So what were you doing at that time in this picture?
It was a computer show in the center of Warsaw called Gambleriada, based on the license. It was like the second biggest gaming magazine, and I'm standing with the co-founder and a good friend, Michał. We are having booths there. We had presentation of games. We had a press conference. We were showing the games from Psygnosis, who are part of Sony. They did, for example, Lemmings, or back in the day they had Formula 1 license. And the game on the top, it's Ace Ventura. It's one of the first games we fully localized to Polish, and it was a blast. It was a mid-price game for kids. We took famous Polish actors. So I remember this moment really well. It was the start of our glory days in the gaming distribution in Poland, and a lot of happy gamers. Very successful show. I think this particular show had 30,000, between 20 and 30,000 attendance over 3 days. So it was huge for us.
Yes. Okay. And several days ago in the San Diego Comic Con, Hideo Kojima was asked a question. What would you say to the 25-year-old yourself? And so I would like to ask you the same question. How would you say to this Marcin inside this picture? From the Marcin sitting in Shanghai right now to the Marcin back in Warsaw at that time?
Yeah, I'll tell him that. I mean, I would like to tell him a lot of things, but the problem is that a big part of it, regardless of how many times I would be repeating it, he wouldn't understand because he was too young and too inexperienced. At the same time, he had the power and and the energy to persevere. So I would tell him, Marcin, it's all going to be all right. Just keep grinding on, focus. You don't understand what I'm telling you. Right now, what is the real meaning of focus? But please, just I don't know, tattoo it on your forearm, and never give up, and keep on moving forward, because the good days will be coming. The good days will be coming, and I'm telling this because after Witcher 1, 2008, 2009, we had the toughest 2 years in the history of the company. We almost went bust. We were fairly close to that, and those were probably the toughest 2 years of my life. So this is how I would like to encourage him to survive those 2 years. I'm not sure if it will be helpful in any way.
Okay, thank you for the answer, and that will be the end of our interview.
Thanks
and
a
thank
lot.
you,
Pleasure.
thank you for your time. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'd like to thank all of our fans here in China for playing our games, for supporting us, for thousands, or should I say tens of thousands of your comments, your critics. Keep on playing our games. If you haven't played, check them out. Witcher 3, obviously, the expansions, and Gwent, which is coming for the first time, fully localized to Chinese, simplified, and with full VO. And it's free to play, so actually you are not risking that much here. Give it a go, and let us know what you like, what you don't, and thanks again for your support.